Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Illuminating Insights. I'm joined here today by my friend Dave Nielson. He is a partner of ours, and we're so excited to be working with him at maybe one or two or more different organizations. Dave is an enterprise business agility transformation advisor and an executive coach who's been working with individuals, teams, and organizations to implement and grow their agile culture since 2005. He's worked with a wide range of organizations from small, like 50 people, to very, very large, over 100,000 people. Dave has worked with organizations in state and local government, nonprofit, manufacturing, e-commerce, life sciences, aerospace and defense, automotive, public health, energy, and financial industries. He is a systems thinker who has been a leader of both people and initiatives and is passionate about the people side of change. He's a certified professional facilitator who excels at guiding large groups. He also has extensive experience in coaching and advising senior leadership at his clients. He's consulted at several clients on crafting their enterprise structure and operating model. Dave, welcome to our podcast. We're so excited to have a conversation with you today.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here. Great to get to talk and connect, and especially on a topic we're passionate about.
One of the things I love having a conversation with you about whenever we happen to be in the same city, although we live in the same city, we never seem to be here at the same time, is the work that you're doing with leaders and helping them to change their organizations for the better. How's that going?
Yeah, it's world work in many ways that uh, necessitates a lot of empathy and a lot of patience and passion to kind of help you push through. Meeting client leaders where they are and helping them to realize that you're coming alongside them, elbow to elbow, to be able to walk down a path that you've seen and experienced before, either personally or with others. That that's really the success pattern, rather than coming at them with the things that you realize that are either anti-patterns or other developmental obstacles in their leadership acumen that you want to help them overcome. And it's I don't want to say it's like raising children, but I think raising children has given me a few of the tools in the toolbox that I draw on here and there. But certainly drawing from professional coaching, drawing from mentoring, drawing from having lived a life as an internal leader, as well as then on the consulting side, all those things kind of help you persevere and pressure through because you know the value you're trying to go towards with them.
That's a lot to help our leaders change because I don't think, and having one daughter that just graduated from college and another who's currently in college, I know that we actually are doing a good job of preparing young people. And I know from my own experience going through university, I don't know that I was actually prepared to be a leader coming out of school. Are we doing a good
Yeah,
job?
that's a that's a whole nother bag of cats there. I these days I'm not entirely sure what our universities are preparing people for. When I look at the corporate landscape, certainly across the Americas and Europe predominantly, as well as then some of our friends in Asia Pac, India, that we interact with and leverage within my company a lot. I don't know what post-secondary education in the United States is really trying to focus on these days. What I do recognize is, because I have the great blessing of working within an organization that's 750,000 people globally. We have a huge number of folks focused on recruiting and attracting young talent into the organization, coming from top business schools, top technology schools all over the globe. And so when you see these people come in and begin to try to work on client engagements and become client facing, and as they're also growing their business acumen and their consulting chops, there's a different set of challenges for folks now in the coming in than there was 15, 20 years ago. And it's a lot has to do with our overall culture, a lot has to do with our current set of environment and our economics and the other factors. So I don't know what colleges and universities are really trying to focus on prepping people for. But once folks get out into the world and they start to see how things are operating and the change that they can affect, then you see the light come back in their eyes and they get excited. And, is the day-to-day work exciting all the time? Well, no, a lot of times it's, polishing PowerPoint decks and helping to arrange and supporting tasks and things like that. But if you're a sponge and you're learning, then they really get excited to see the intellect and the passion and especially the human side that they are bringing, that I would say, folks more my age and older at times we're probably giving the short shift to. I think that's worthwhile.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. We always have to keep nurturing not only the folks that are coming into the workforce, but probably the folks that have been there for a while, as well as those that might be looking at when is it time to be ending our time here in the workforce. So how
Mm-hmm.
do we as leaders balance all of that? Have you seen anyone do that successfully? Because that is also part of is leading change for multiple generations.
It is. I have seen people be intermittently successful, in some cases persistently successful, repeatedly successful, maybe a better way to say it. Um, Several leaders I've had the great blessing to work with have transitioned across multiple organizations. So to see them leave their fingerprints in several environments and continue to grow their level of impact, that's been hugely rewarding and really humbling to know that I was there to have some input, some contribution to their growth trajectory. So I love that part of it. I've unfortunately seen the other side of it as well. Leaders who, despite the collective best efforts of a bunch of folks, have not been able to transition into what I consider more of a knowledge age stance of leadership, rather than an industrial age, more of a hierarchical command and control stance. And so, in full transparency, I have a huge bias toward a couple of primary schools of thought. A lot of the writings of W. Edwards Deming, a lot of what Simon Sinek in modern times has been trying to help encourage and help evoke in the space. Huge fan of Patrick Lencioni and a lot of what he's written and what that helps us learn and become informed by. Bill Joyner's work, prior to and during his ChangeWise CEO role, and kind of the different levels of leadership and kind of the evolutionary path that he helps to spell out for people, that gives us kind of a reference point. Those are all powerful lenses for us to apply. So with that in mind, I do see an increasing number of leaders who are willing to be coached, mentored, and advised toward a stance and a presence that has a higher EQ, has a higher organizational health and vitality focus rather than an organizational performance focus. I'm pulling a little Lencioni frame into this. And so as those senior leaders start to realize that the organization, or should I say the organism that they are trying to nurture and cultivate, really benefits from their focus on making it healthy and whole and naturally inventive and innovative and curious, rather than focusing purely on performance and balance sheets and execution. Those leaders in the former category are the ones who are taking their organisms to the next level. right? And that's the market leaders. You look across the majority of industries, the market leaders invariably have leaders who are thinking in that way, or they're in a space where they have very little competition and they're monopolistic in their, in their silo.
So it comes down to the age-old question. How do we teach that? I was working with one of our clients um, earlier this week. It's actually yesterday. I was out on an on-site meeting, and they were celebrating the fact that their culture, because we were doing some evaluation of their culture and their performance and all of that. They the leaders actually recognized the health of the culture in their organization, and they were celebrating that. And they said the metrics part will come, the performance part will come. And I was very, very happy to have that conversation with them. The fact that they were celebrating the health of their culture, and they're like, yeah, the metrics part, yeah, the performance part, that'll come. We'll figure that out. Those are skills we can teach. We're super excited about the fact that our culture appears healthy, our people are happy, they trust each other, we're holding each other accountable. Because that's stuff that's so hard to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So, have, how successful have you been, and what have you done to help teach that to leaders? Because
Mm.
it's so hard for me to do it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback around that.
You know, it, um, it's Peter Drucker who said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And despite the fact that that seems to be proven true time and time again, um, it does not seem to be core curriculum for MBA programs and people, others who try to claim to be cultivating the next tycoons and industrial C-suite of the future. And so, to your question, how do we educate? I don't know that it's an educational approach that is winning the day in the cases where we are.
Mm,
I feel that having having a mentoring, having being able to develop a trusted advisor relationship
mhm,
to approach a leader or work with a team of leaders from a position of I am here to help you learn both under my advice and potentially under your own experiential happenstance, and then pivot based on that new and learned information. That, in my experience, has been far stronger than coming in with, we have a body of knowledge. We need to educate all of you about this so that you can start to then behave differently. Um, by the time people are in senior leadership roles, I don't know. I don't place a lot of stock in that. You can't teach old dogs new tricks. I'm a pretty old dog. I've learned a lot of new tricks in recent years. Um, but I don't know that it's running people through a classroom, a peer education approach. I think it's,
mhm.
you have a wealth of knowledge and experience that's got you here. Quite frankly, if I'm working with you, it's not that your organization is not completely unsuccessful. It's that you have the ability to invest in how to move forward from here. So I'm going to come alongside you and not
Ah,
try to do knowledge injection. I'm
right.
going to try to make an osmotic atmosphere for you to soak up micro learnings and little point in time adjustments and pivots to say, ooh, yeah, we just made that decision. That didn't feel very good, did it? What do we do next time? How do we recover from that? How do we steer the rest of the organization so that they don't have to suffer through that same little stubby toe?
Yep. So follow some of those Shuhari where watch me, do it with me, and then show me. Let's do it
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
So,
and
and
yeah,
mentoring,
that's a good
mentoring's
frame.
amazing. So I love it when we can set up, mentoring programs where it's peer to peer or um, coach to mentor, where let's
Mm-hmm.
learn together and do it together. Because you're right, just putting someone in a classroom for 2 days and um, wow, you're now trustworthy.
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
You've been educated. Now go forth and be a catalytic leader. Like, no, it not doesn't really work very well that way.
No, no. And David, you're only as old as you feel you are. So
Ah, thanks. So I'm 117.
only today. Tomorrow you'll be
Yeah.
back to being 17.
Spry.
So what are some of the success stories you'd like to share with our listeners? Because I know you have a whole pocket full of them with all the places that you've worked and all the
Ooh.
organizations you've been with.
Um, you know, the first one that kind of leaps to mind, um, that there's an old saying that goes, if you tell me how I'll be measured, I'll tell you how I'll perform.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that theme, I worked with a consumer product goods company some years ago where they had an internal recognition program that on face value would seem to be holistic, comprehensive, and have the potential to be highly effective. And the organization named this program the Extraordinary Everyday Program. And that led to the inevitable shortening of it to be the EE. You know, there were EE awards, Extraordinary Everyday Awards that were handed out. And depending on your level in the company, you could award people for being extraordinary. You could nominate somebody, and your level would dictate how big of a reward you could nominate somebody for. So um, the typical population of FTEs, individual contributors, could nominate people for EE1s, EE2s. It'd be like $25, $50, and it would go on their performance record for that particular performance year. And then managers, directors, VPs, it would climb on up to the point where I think the CEO could probably hand out $1,000 or $15 EE awards that would happen at various points. And so it's like, wow, this is a really great way to just recognize. And there was obviously corporate budget devoted to this. And then on town halls and other things like that, they would show, hey, over the last quarter, here's all the people who got EE awards, and they would put people's names up on the screen. Everybody would clap and, oh yes, very well done, very well done. Round of applause. Well, the undercurrent of all this became a a non-trivial problem for the more dedicated, iterative, incremental, feedback-driven models that we were trying to put in place as stable, durable teams came in, and we became very focused on more of a knowledge age way of working rather than old industrial project-based mindset. And it took the form of if if you were a person on an agile team working within your sprints and your upcoming releases, and this is old enough that safe wasn't really a thing, so we didn't call them PIs back then, but we did roughly quarterly or 10 to 12 week, planning horizons. So if you're Joey Bag of Donuts and you're on a team and you've committed to the work in your sprint because of the conversation with your product owner and everything, and you've mapped that out, but Sally Sixpack, your director, comes by and shoulder taps you and says, "Hey Joey, I've got this little special side bit of work that I need done. And, I'm really appreciative when these things get done urgently." And so Joey's thinking, hey, if I get, this is a director, I could get, 100, $250 maybe back in my pocket. And I'm going to shove my committed user stories to the side long enough to get that thing done. And now I've got an EE award in my near future. And my whole team has been sub-optimized, right? And because it reflects in performance management as well, and it's taken into account in what would be calibrations and other things, it became kind of a cultural headwind to being more focused, more team commitment based, and to really maximizing organizational flow at the end of the day. So once we started to highlight that, you'll never guess who the very first people were to scream and yell about challenging the EE program. you're right. It was the HR people who'd come up with it. They thought, well, this is based on all the best research and all the best stuff at the time. So there's several hurdles as you go through beyond just the delivery engine, where you have to deal with different stakeholders in the corporate services and stuff. And so over time, we helped them to start to try to tackle that. I didn't get to see that through to the end because they ended up having to move on to the next client, which is the great curse of being in the consulting world, is you never really get to see something through from soup to nuts. But that was, I think it catalyzed something that started to take them down a recognition that what would seemingly be really innocent and powerful had a darker undercurrent that was sub-optimizing the whole in favor of optimizing the parts.
And we had something similar to that when at an organization that I worked at, and it was written recognition, that everybody got, and it was a cultural thing, and it became a competition. Who could get the most because they were displayed in everybody's offices and workspaces,
Oh
and
yeah,
it was the who could get one from a senior leader and who could get the most, and um, you know every month at the company town hall, who would get one of the ones at the town hall, because those always came with gifts and that type of
yeah,
thing. Um, and that was not the intent when this recognition was originally dreamed up by the company founder.
yeah.
So, you know, those programs always are born out of the best of intentions, of we want to recognize
Mm-hmm.
the efforts of people, but when they get taken to an extreme like that, then it no longer
Yeah.
has the underlying meaning.
I
And
think it highlights for me what you were just describing, and several of the client environments I've experienced. It highlights for me how necessary it is for us to have empathy and the right language and ability to approach parts of the organization that in in prior waves of change in the agile community we had been not addressing or not able to really understand how to address things like vendor management and procurement, helping them understand things. Well, we're, the finance organization, people talking about budgeting, depreciation schedules, capitalization strategy, um, what's an investment mindset look like? And then, of course, what really at the heart of what we're describing is the HR side of the house, which is as we become more knowledge age focused in our ways of working and our organizational structure, what does that do to performance management? What does that do to our incentive programs, to our leadership development programs? What does that do to our job families and our career paths and our ability to recruit and retain? And those are disciplines that I think are still younger overall across the Agile community, but hugely impactful in how we can shape the lives of the people who are trying to do their best day to day, right? As they now that we're in return to office environments across, the vast majority of my client base, I still see it, as people walk up from the parking garage and they reach out and they touch the front door of the office building. There's that little, it's another day of work. And how do we ease the pain of the headwinds and the bureaucracy and the contrariness that's built into these things systemically because they're not thinking from the body of knowledge that we can help them start to understand.
right, and how do we take and bring agility to those parts of the organization so that we can bring
Mm-hmm.
modern ways of working across the entirety of an organization in and of itself. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, David, I'm so glad we got a chance to chat today. The time has flown by.
I know.
Any closing thoughts for our listeners today?
Oh, the we've seen several waves come through our particular industry and capabilities. And so as we harken back to the mid and late 90s and the growth of agile team practices and the technical disciplines, and then into the scaling patterns, and now into more of the business agility wave. And as we're looking forward into more holistic enterprise value realization, both maximizing organizational flow and innovation as, you know, balanced investment appetites. There, it's really encouraging me to see what we will be talking about and what we will be growing in ourselves to be able to help what is next emerge. So I would just say, just stay curious, try to get out and experience the really tough environments and the tough interactions, whether you're an internal champion or you're an external advisor. You know, all those experiences are going to be worthwhile, and hold on to them lightly rather than entrenching yourself so that you can keep being a sponge.
Those are great, great thoughts. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for being with us today on this episode of Illuminating Insights. Have a great day.
Thanks, Trisha.